Hi, this is Arthur, and this is a summary of the Archon Quest, Inversion of Genesis, from Genshin Impact version 3.3. The Traveler and Paimon overhear some scholars talking and go over to inquire about it. The scholars are named Sawada and Akaba, and were discussing the history of Tatarasuna, a town that suffered a disaster recently and hundreds of years ago. Recent information has been discovered about a Mikoshi Nagamasa, known for crafting a fine blade and killing his servant, Katsuragi. The records also mention a Kabukimono, which generally means someone odd. Apparently, the Kabukimono lived in Tatarasuna and disappeared before the disaster. The records also include a man named Niwa who went missing. Niwa was a distant relative of the Kaidahara clan, which Kazuha also belongs to. All these events took place about 400 years ago. The scholars also reveal that the Kabukimono was a puppet. The traveler suspects it was the Fatui Harbinger, the Balladeer. As the traveler leaves, they see the Balladeer walking around. They follow him into the sanctuary of Sarasthana and find him along with Nahida. Nahida has made a deal with the Balladeer. After the Balladeer's recent losses, he has weakened and was expelled from the Fatui. In exchange for Nahida's protection, the Balladeer will travel into Irminsul to look for information on the traveler's sibling and the Descenders. When the Balladeer almost became a god, he gained the ability to connect to Irminsul. Nahida asked the traveler to go with the Balladeer and watch him. The Balladeer, Traveler, and Paimon then travel inside Irminsul, and the Balladeer begins searching for information. Instead of information on the Descenders, the Balladeer finds information about his past. We see a memory of Niwa confronting Escher, a mechanic from Fontaine also working at Tatarasuna. Niwa accuses Escher of causing the furnaces at Tatarasuna to malfunction and potentially destroy the whole town. Niwa is about to sacrifice his life and enter the furnace to solve the problem when Escher kills him. Escher reveals that he is in fact the Fatui Harbinger, the Doctor. Back in Irminsul, the Balladeer is overcome with emotion. Nahida confirms the memories are real. The Traveler and Paimon then leave the Balladeer and give him some time to process his emotions. They return, and the Balladeer confirms that there is no information on Descenders in Irminsul. However, he can confirm that the Traveler's sibling first arrived in Conria, and that's because the heavens responded to the summoning. This extra bit of information came from Fatui Harbinger named the Jester, who was originally a royal mage from Conria and lived with the sibling for a time. The Balladeer then speaks telepathically with the Traveler and asks her if it's possible to change the past. The Traveler's shocked reaction to the question confirms to the Balladeer that it is indeed possible. The Balladeer then walks over to Irminsul and erases his own existence in the same way Rukkhadevata erased her existence. The Traveler and Paimon flee Irminsul, and Nahida sends them to a room and asks her to wait there. As the Traveler is talking to Paimon, Paimon suddenly loses all memory of the Balladeer, showing that the Balladeer was successful. The Traveler and Paimon then go to Togo Amanoma in Inazuma to ask about the Raiden Gokuden. Togo tells them a version of history in which Niwa and an unknown swordsman enter the furnace instead of the Balladeer and save Tatarasuna at the cost of their lives. In this new version of history, the Raiden Gokuden remain mostly killed, but not by the Balladeer. A descendant of the unknown swordsman who blamed them for the swordsman's sacrifice killed them. They then go to the Kamisato estate and find that nothing's changed there. They then run into Xavier and ask him about the Kabukimono, and he's never heard of him. They return back to Sumeru and run into the scholars Sawada and Akaba again. They discuss Tatarasuna but have never heard of the Kabukimono. They head over to Nahida and find that she also has no memory of the Balladeer. The Traveler tells Nahida everything about the Balladeer and how he erased himself in Irminsul. Nahida then goes and finds a fairy tale she wrote earlier. Apparently, when someone erases themselves from Irminsul, they erase all knowledge of themselves from reality. However, Nahida's fairy tale was written in such a way as to be a symbolic allegory of the Balladeer's life. Accordingly, the fairy tale was not directly related to the Balladeer and was not erased along with all the memories of the Balladeer or the Kabukimono. The Traveler heads to the bazaar to think about what happened when they see someone identical to the Balladeer. This person calls himself Shugenja, or a wanderer, and has no memory of who he is. They bring the wanderer over to Nahida. Nahida then offers to restore his memory stored in the fairy tale and sends them all into a dream formed from the Balladeer's memory so that the Balladeer can relearn who he is. They then go through the Wanderer's life, so I'll give a full summary here of the Balladeer's life before he erased himself from Irminsul. The Balladeer was originally a puppet created by and then discarded by the Raiden Shogun. Katsuragi, a servant of Nagamasa Mikoshi, found him and brought him to Tatarasuna where they welcomed him. Unfortunately, the Doctor infiltrated Tatarasuna as Escher, a mechanic from Fontaine, in order to cause problems for Inazuma in the future. The Doctor caused the furnace malfunction which nearly destroyed Tatarasuna. Niwa was about to sacrifice his life to enter the furnace and fix the problem when the Doctor killed him. The Doctor then cuts out Niwa's heart and puts it into a device which he then gives to the Balladeer. The Doctor lies to the Balladeer and tells him that Niwa has fled and gives him the device hoping that he will enter the furnace and sacrifice his own life to save Tatarasuna. The Balladeer does so, but doesn't die because Niwa's heart somehow protects him. The Balladeer, believing that Niwa and the town betrayed him, then leaves Tatarasuna. The Balladeer then befriends a sick orphan. They promise to be a family together, but the boy dies from his illness and the Balladeer feels betrayed and abandoned again. At some point after this, the Balladeer returns to Tatarasuna and almost kills all the swordsmiths and the Raiden Gokuden for the betrayal he felt at Tatarasuna. The Balladeer also joins the Fatui and sometime later heads to Sumeru to participate in the program to turn him into a god. After seeing his whole life, Nahida offers to fully restore his memories and the Balladeer agrees. As he is receiving the memories, another dream version of himself attacks them. The Balladeer successfully receives his memories and is granted an Anemo vision. This is only the second time in Genshin Impact that we've actually seen someone receive a vision. The Balladeer then defeats his dream self and they return to the real world. Nahida reveals that this was all part of her plan to reveal the truth to the Balladeer, and the Balladeer decides to continue working with Nahida. The Traveler and Paimon return to their room to rest and hear a mysterious voice that seems to have an awareness of the changes to Irminsul and the world's memory. One last note is that changing the information in Irminsul doesn't seem to change the events that occurred, only how people perceive those events or if they remember those events. For example, all the people the Balladeer killed did not come back to life despite erasing himself from Irminsul. And that is the end of this video and this quest. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you like what you've seen here, please like, comment, and subscribe.